Hello Seawolves! Good Monday morning or perhaps afternoon or evening depending on where you're watching this. And I again waited 7 minutes to press this here absolutely fresh pot. So here we go. Are you ready? Are you pouring right now? Is this... Ooh, look at that. Here we go. Are you ready? Exciting day. Good news about the Jules Verne coming up. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, super nice. So, like I said, I have some amazingly good news about the Jules Verne Trophy and Gitana 17. More about that in a second. Also some nice news from the Vendee Globe fleet. And I wanted to start the day with a video that one of you sent me a link to yesterday. And well, I was thinking of a title for this and I thought we might call it Med Parking Destruction Derby or something like that. But I figured, you know, since this is also a bit of an educational channel and you know, some of you maybe have boats, some of you maybe don't have boats but are curious about this. And I thought, well, what better way to you know, tell you guys a little bit about parking a larger size sailing boat when using an example of really how not to park a boat. So get ready for some cringe moments and comic relief.
So here we go. Let's introduce the players. So the boat that we're seeing kind of laying sideways here is called Kon-Tiki. So let's call it Destructor Tiki for the purposes of this video. And as you can see, Destructor Tiki is aiming right at the heart of this catamaran over there. And well, the people on board are recognizing the threat, not quite happy to see this. And the captain has decided to go backwards a little bit, straight of course into the anchor chains, because there's 2 anchor chains sticking out of this boat that you know, it's attached to. And so that is what he is motoring straight into and through right now. So he's thinking, I'm gonna get out of this, but he's not, because now he has 2 anchor chains, maybe 3 anchor chains wrapped around his keel, so he's not able to go any other direction. So he decides to full throttle it, because you know, if you don't know what to do, just full throttle it. And there we go. So now he's dragging all of the anchor chains of these boats around. We can see that long black line there. That's one of the anchor ropes from, I think, from the 3rd boat to the left actually there. That's now wrapped around the completely destroyed Bimini. And yeah, they're trying to, well, what do we do? What do we do? Okay, let's at least get rid of this anchor line here. Now what does Captain Brilliant? Yeah, let's just throttle a bit this way, straight into the anchor chains of this catamaran here. Oh, bad idea. So, okay, so now they're stuck in the anchor chains of this catamaran, obviously, or anchor lines, who knows. So now they have to get their way out of that. So there's only one way to go, backwards. Maybe the young captain is sensing an opportunity here to you know, get into this parking space finally. But no, it seems that the boat is getting stuck somewhere, and the decision is made that they better get out of this. And so what do? Of course, you just full throttle it. You just full throttle it. When in doubt, full throttle is the answer. Here we go. Yes, doesn't matter if anybody hurts, probably at least 10,000 euros worth of damage to the front of that very expensive catamaran right there. Well done. Well done, Captain Idiot here. So now what do we do? Well, a lot of people not amused, screaming quite loudly, of course. And as you can see, the 2 other boats have now both lost all of their anchor chains in front. So they are now swinging uncontrollably into each other on that side. And this neighbor there, obviously, not very amused.
So, quite a disaster, huh? And now, med parking is not easy because you have to put 2 anchors out and then put the boat toward the shore and then put 2 lines out. So you're kind of putting your boat, you know, firmly between 4 kind of anchor points. It's not easy to do, but these guys are really effing it up in every possible way imaginable. Just doing everything wrong. And strangely enough, they're wearing company uniforms, so most likely it looks like these are supposed to be professionals doing this. It's definitely a rental boat, it's not a privately owned boat, obviously. And so really surprised to see this happening. And the one thing that, you know, as a more experienced sailor and also somebody who has driven boats here in the Amsterdam canals, for example, a lot. We go in. We have a lot of locks in Holland, so we're doing a lot of very small quarter moving around of bigger sailing boats. So I have a good amount of experience with that, and seeing it from that perspective of knowing really how to move a big boat around in a small confined space and kind of the logic that goes behind there, maneuvering a boat like that. It's very clear that whoever was driving this boat really did everything wrong you can imagine, and clearly is using some faulty thinking into how he's steering this boat. And I thought, because we're also an educational channel, like to show you guys some things every once in a while, and I know that some of you of course know this, but many people don't have so much experience with parking a boat, sometimes even solo parking a boat of 30 foot or 40 foot or 50 foot, and I do this of course regularly, so it's kind of interesting maybe for a lot of you to talk about the thinking and the technique so that you can prevent ever getting into a situation just like this. So before we get into the news, I'd like to really dig into this a little bit and have a bit of an educational moment about boat parking here together, which is good for me also because the things that you sometimes see in marinas is really crazy, right? We call it harbor TV, and the drama is very real, I can tell you. So I have a model boat here, and I have another model boat here, not the best stand-ins for the situation, but those are the model boats that I have. This one came with some chocolates at Sinterklaas. It's like sort of Santa, but happened several weeks before here in Holland, and this is a classic boat that we picked up somewhere called the Confection. So let's use these for an example, shall we? Okay, so let's take a look. So by the way, some of you asked to see our Christmas tree, so yeah, there it is in all its glory. And there we have the two boats that we see in the situation, right? So the camera right in this video is about here. Somebody's on the dock on this side, and here we have the boat that is kind of on the right side in the video, and here we have the boat that's kind of on the left side. Actually, let's switch it around. Let's make this the boat on the right side. And so the video starts with the offending boat, let's say, in this position. Now, the principle of moving a big boat around in a small space is that every sailboat, of course, has a keel. So it's kind of sticking out here on the underside of the boat. And you have to think of that as kind of an axis that the boat is turning around. So the boat is not just kind of wading through the water, it's actually turning around on this kind of pivotal point that is the keel. Unless you have a long keel, then it's a bit more complicated story. But most modern sailboats have a relatively small keel with a big bulb on it, and so they're turning around this keel, which is rather convenient actually. But think of it that way. Now, of course, you have the rudder on the back of the boat, so that's a scoop that's kind of turning around here, and you have the propeller somewhere there. And the best way to think about that is not as a rudder or a propeller, but actually as a jet. So using the propeller and the rudder, you as a captain can create a jet of water. This is actually a representation of a water jet that shoots into a certain direction. It can be this way, it can be that way, and this jet is propelling the boat forward, and it's coming somewhere here from on the back of the boat. That's kind of what you're creating with the rudder, and that's where most captains who are not used to moving a big boat in a small space go wrong. Because what we see this captain effectively do is, so he's probably tried to bring the boat in, and then you have to put the anchor out and go in like that. That was probably his plan, and failed. So when we see the video starting, what has actually happened is he's gotten himself in this position, and now he's backing out, right? So he's trying to kind of back out of that, not really doing a good job there. And then the wind, which seems to be coming from this direction, is pushing him kind of against this other boat, and there's a second boat hanging around here, of course. And so this is where we really see the thinking going wrong. Because what does this captain do? So he goes back, he goes back, he goes back, and then the captain's thinking, I want to go out like this, right? Now if you're in a car and you want to do this, what do? You turn the wheel, of course, all the way to the right, because that's where you want to go. So you turn your front wheels all the way that way, and you make the bend that way. But when you do that in a boat, when you actually turn the wheel that way, what you're doing is you're taking the jet that your boat is making and you're putting it like this. and then he full throttles it. And so what happens when you have a jet coming out like this and you full throttle it, you're going to push the aft end of the boat right into those boats. So you are going to create a slight turning movement that way, but you're not really turning that way, you're just pushing the aft section of the boat straight into those other boats. And that's why we see this damage happening, because this captain is not realizing that he's not driving a car. So that tells me he's a very inexperienced person who doesn't have the right thinking about what you're doing. What he should be doing is exactly the opposite. He should have turned the wheel the other way so that the jet that he's producing is actually going that way. Because, you know, he wants to turn like that, right? But the way to do that, the way to create space for that, is to actually use that jet to turn the boat like this, because then you're pushing the aft end back there, and then you should, you know, put it more back there and go out the back way. Because if the wind is coming like this, there's no way to get enough distance. It's just impossible. You can't swing a boat like that. So the only way to get out of there is to go backward until you have enough space to then, you know, use your jet to turn around quickly before you're close to the boats. Now then the second mistake that he's making, because he's basically doing that again, so he puts on the jet, destroys all these boats here, destroys the bimini and everything, and goes next to this other kind of catamaran and kind of slams into them on the side, right? But he seems to be smelling an opportunity here, like, oh yeah, I can move the boat in backwards. So again, he's using this jet, right? He's using the jet like that to kind of, you know, creep the boat in there. But again, making a mistake, right? So he's again using the wheel kind of the wrong way. And so he's positioning the jet like this. Actually pushing the boat more towards you know, this catamaran, instead of using it the other way, letting the wind push him a little bit, and actually keeping the aft section more like this so that he'll move more to the side and away from that other boat. And so what happens once he's here, and we can actually see this very clearly on the video, when he realizes that he's not going to make it and he's too close, what is he doing? He's again thinking like he's a car. So he's turning the wheel all the way that way, like he's turning the front wheels, because he wants to get out like that. But the result of what he's doing is actually that he's again creating a strong water jet going that way, and then he's actually full throttling it, and what we see is that the aft section of the boat gets slammed into the back of that boat, because that's what he's doing with the water jet. So what he actually should have done is do exactly the opposite. He should have taken the jet to the opposite side, or, you know, maybe not all the way opposite, but more or less straight towards the shore, and then push the boat out straight like this, instead of trying to, you know, turn it like this, with the result that you're just going to push the aft end of the boat in that way. And so the key thing in all of this is that you know, really helped me also to be much better at maneuvering big boats, is never think of rudders, never think of wheels, never think of turns. Think of how you're controlling your boat only as in you have usually one jet. If you have, you know, bow thrusters, you have two more jets, you know, at the front. But generally speaking, you know, if you're a good captain, you can do it with that. It's fine, it's enough. You have one jet that comes from the back of your boat. You can position it almost 360 degrees, you know. So you have a bit more control, you know, depending on where the propeller is, if it's before the rudder or after. But generally, you can position it anywhere to the back. And if you have a little speed, you can also position it, you know, to the front. And so that's how you really control your boat, with short kind of jet bursts, almost like landing a spacecraft, you know, where you go in and you kind of like shooting out little bursts to different directions to control it. So if you see me parking, you know, my boat, for example, you'll never see me full throttle it like that. I'm like positioning the steering wheel, finding the right thing, then I might like give a few puffs to like shoot it out a little bit here or shoot it out a little bit there. And it's like little control thrusts getting this big heavy thing to move. And then when you really have a clear path, then you can, you know, give a bit more throttle and actually sail out. But when you see anybody trying to control a boat in a marina situation like that, with long jets of just full throttling it out of places, that just means that you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. So I hope you enjoyed that little digging into the science of parking and maneuvering a boat in close quarters. And now let's move on to the sailing news, because like what I started the video with, we have some great news about Gitana 17 and the Jules Verne trophy. So obviously Sodibu Ultim 3 made a great run at the record, but unfortunately down in the Southern Ocean damaged some of their rudder and had to retire from the race, even though they'd already also fallen behind the original record, so just no way for them to best that. And Gitana had earlier a similar problem while they were passing kind of Cape Finisterre, so very early on in the race, barely made it out of the Bay of Biscay, and then unfortunately had to abandon the race. But they went back to Lorient, and so because they fell out of the race pretty quickly, they were able to spend some time now to repair the boat, and have now repaired the boat. And so I'm happy to report that Gitana 17 is now on standby, and the developing weather window looks good. And so the news right now is that they think that somewhere, maybe in the next few days, maybe before New Year or maybe slightly after, there will be a good window for them to leave again and make a new attempt with Gitana 17 for the Jules Verne trophy, going around the world in 40 days. If you don't know exactly what that is, there is a link to my Jules Verne special about kind of the history and what this race is in the link below. So definitely check that out if you're not familiar with that yet. But yeah, I hope that many of you are as excited as I am to see Gitana retry its luck, and we'll see how it goes. I think it's one of the most beautiful designs of a trimaran that I've ever seen, and I'm really curious to see it attack the record and go for the long run. I was really sad to see that they were kind of effectively out of the race so quickly last time. So let's hope that this time no UFOs, no hitting anything, and just making a nice clean run of it, and let's see if they can do it in less than 40 days. The tracker is also active again, so I'll put the link in the description below, and there you can take a look, and if the boat starts racing again, you'll be able to follow the progress along with me right there. And Gitana 17 is not the only boat that is back, because Lewis Burton is back in the race. Yes, one of the race favorites, I have to say, especially for me also, has been able to fix his mast track as he was in the lee of an island with a research station in the middle of the Southern Ocean, really, but managed to get his boat out of the wind, as I explained yesterday, and he's been able to mount a new mast track onto his mast. He said in the reporting that it's one of the hardest things he's ever had to do in his life, but he managed, and that means that not only is he able to sail again, he's able to sail again fully. No real guarantee on the autopilot problem, so we'll have to hope and pray that that all continues nicely now, but the boat, at least for the sailing mechanics of it, as according to Lewis, is completely up to 100% again, and he, as he worded it, he's able to go and sail fast again. So that's really good news. Now, because of all of this issues, he has of course fallen back quite a bit. So let me check right now. He's actually in 11th place. So yeah, with him being kind of second or third, of course, a big blow to his standing in the ranking because of this. What was started essentially by an accidental gybe about a week and a half ago, and yeah, led to all this trouble, but now he's fully back in the race. So really good to hear. A nice Christmas gift, I guess, for Lewis and his family and all of his supporters. And as you can see, if I zoom in a little bit here, you can see that he's left his position here at Macquarie Island. I don't know how to pronounce this, but he's left his position there and has sailed straight south to get as close to the exclusion zone again as possible. And then, of course, pretty soon, probably now, is going to jibe and continue the race again. So congratulations to Lewis, and really good to see that he's back on his way. Now let's take a look at the rest of the Vendee Globe race. If I bring you into my screen here, you'll see that the three leaders, as I talked about yesterday, are making their way nicely through this kind of band of wind between the bit of a low streak here and this low pressure system above them. It looks kind of strange because, I don't know, Vendee has programmed it in such a way that if I go off center of my screen, all of a sudden the rest of the race appears. It's just a consequence of the app that the Vendee Globe produced, I guess. But we can see that, yeah, as the weather progresses, pretty much right now it's going the way I talked about yesterday with this band that the sailors can sail. You know, it keeps moving to the east without the high pressure really sinking too low. You know, only like Wednesday or so, and I think they'll be kind of past it by then. So we'll have to see how that develops for the leaders, but so far so good and going exactly as we talked about yesterday. Then we see that the rest of the fleet behind that still all very close to the ice line. So I get the logic there, but not what I kind of advised yesterday, where I said it might be smart to move a little bit up north to give them more space to maneuver when the strong wind hits in about 48 hours from now and from the wrong direction. But so far it seems that within the fleet everybody is sticking to the ice line, and if we look at the prediction there, we see that, yeah, so 48 hours from now or so, we see this wind coming in from the top. First with the low. We saw a video today of Boris actually now already moving in a little bit to this more lighter wind zone. We can actually take a look at that.
Evening sun, going into the high pressure. This cloud bank is following us slowly, but I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I will have a look at the set picture in a moment. Here we go with Big Tanaker and the staysail J3, no foil, and this curtain works wonders. Outside here it is freezing cold. It's 5 degrees, and in there it's 10-15. So comfortable, very nice.
And so him and the boats around him are, you know, moving into that more and more, but literally about 24 hours from now, so around 12 to 2 tomorrow, we are going to see this wind on top of them coming very much from the wrong direction, and most of them already now, as you can see if we zoom in a little bit here, are going to be on courses that are, you know, either just barely a beam reach, or they're going to actually be beating into the wind in order to stay away from the ice gates. And as things progress, you can see about 10 hours later, so we're talking about Wednesday, very early in the morning. Yeah, so this is 2 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. We see that, yeah, more or less all of them, of course, will be in here. And they will all be beating into the wind at that point, and they'll all be very, very close, it looks like, to the ice line. So yeah, not exactly sure why none of them have moved up even a little. Maybe they're thinking that they'll be, you know, past here by then, but yeah, we'll have to see how that develops. Boat speeds, you know, pretty good right now. 12 to 14 knots goes more or less for the whole fleet. Daniel a little bit faster right now, but 24 hours, same averages. So, you know, they're pretty much all moving along at a very comparable speeds right now. So here we see Burton again, making his way back to the ice line, also getting ready to really join the race. And then a little bit more behind, we see that, by the way, both Clarice Kramer and we have Romain Athanasio here have, because of Lewis Burton's kind of weight and now return to the race, have kind of, because of that, closed the gap to the head group. So there used to be no real boats behind the leaders and them. So there was a bit of a gap, but now that now that Lewis Burton has kind of gone straight into that gap, it actually kind of connects the entire front of the fleet. So that's kind of interesting to see that they're more or less like one big, long, unbroken pack now beyond New Zealand there. And right behind there we see Armel Trippon, and I have to give it to him again, outpacing everybody else in front by a big margin. So we see pretty much in the back of the fleet Chris Kramer doing really well with a good speed, 17 knots right now. Armel doing 18.1, so really good there. But when we look at the rest, they're all kind of 14, 15, 16, significantly slower again. And so obviously it's because Armel finally has some good wind again, but also good direction, aiming a bit higher than the rest of the fleet here. And yeah, he's gaining again. So we see this gap between him and the one kind of big fleet of boats right at the front of the race, getting smaller and smaller again. So we'll see how it goes. My prediction is still that 5 or 6 days from now he reconnects and actually will be sailing right next to Romain, Athanasio and Chris, but we'll see how that develops. Then behind there, more or less similar situation to yesterday. Really cool to see that Pip Hare still in 17, still going strong. I mean, doing 17 knots right now, average of 16 over the last 24 hours. So she's doing really, really well. Especially if we look at this fleet, who are all actually a little bit slower. I think that she's more or less both on her current speed and on the 24 hours. She's faster than everybody else around. So actually gaining a little bit on Arnold Bozaris. And maybe she heard what I said yesterday, like the challenge for her to stay ahead of Jeremy for the next 4 days. Whether she heard it or not, she's really going for it, so that's good to see. And we do see the gap between Jeremy and Manuel Cosin, who is kind of in the back of that fleet with Pip in it, getting smaller, kind of fast, with Jeremy doing 19 knots right now and also a 16.5 average. So actually only slightly slower than Pip. So for now she's doing well. She's doing 17 knots. She's doing 16.5 average, I should say, over the last 24 hours. And so is Jeremy. So they're exactly at the same speed. So Jeremy is catching up with everybody else in there, except for Pip Hare. How nice is that, right? So go Pip. And yeah, if she actually does make it, actually does stay 4 days ahead of Jeremy, we should do something fun with the Seawolves, I guess. But Jeremy overall doing really well. I think he is being chased a little bit faster than we thought before by this low pressure. So yeah, that is the one thing that could, of course, become kind of troublesome for him. Let's take a look and actually take his course line in here and run through the prediction for a second, see what he will do timing wise, if he can stay ahead of that. Yeah, so predicting that he will have to go a little bit more to the south, so that'll be him losing some distance again then, and then being able to make a control turn and kind of stay under that high pressure in relatively okay wind, but not with massive speed. So that's quite significant from yesterday, because it was predicted that this high would be a little bit slower and that he'd just be able to stay ahead of it. On the other hand, it looks like this is going to also catch up with the rest of those boats in front of him. So that also includes Pip, if she goes a little bit more higher. So we will see. I'm going to leave my 4-day prediction the same for now, and then we'll see what happens. And back of the fleet, not much has changed. So this high that was kind of in between, or more or less straight ahead of Arie Huisela here, seems to be dissolving. So that's nice. It was predicted that would take a day and a half longer, but it seems good now. So Arie doing good speed, 13.6 knots, seems to be nicely also on a good straight track. So whatever problems he had yesterday seems to be all fine. And same for Sebastian Destremeux, not really making great speed because I think he's still having some issues on board, but his direction is good, and yeah, seems to be having okay wind, 10 to 12 knots, so not really surprising that he's not going much faster. I would think that if his boat was 100%, he still could go maybe 12, maybe he should be able to go 12 or 13 knots at least. So I don't know exactly what is up there, but something is probably still up, but doing okay. And so that's more or less the entire analysis of the whole fleet. And yeah, we'll have to see what happens in the next 2 days or so to really see where they're all going to be on Christmas. So that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed the episode, also my little deep dive into this whole parking situation. If you might like me to do this type of sort of little educational sessions about boat handling also here within the report, please let me know in the comments. Make sure to like the video. This is very important, by the way, because I know that many of you are watching, you know, almost every day, but please remember, like the video, because the likes apparently are very important for how many times the video gets recommended to other people, and that really helps to, you know, keep the reach big. So don't just watch the video. If you like the video, like the video. Thank you very much. And yeah, if you want to know more, go to seawolvestv.com. There was one question yesterday in the chat about the flags, because many of you want to fly the Seawolf wolf high in your masts. And I ordered some, you know, nice triangle flags to come in, but it wasn't an option that was, you know, able in the standard kind of YouTube, you know, the shop that we have on the website. So as soon as I actually get them here, because transport right now at Christmas and Kiona, it's all, you know, not so fast right now. But when I have them here, I'll announce it on the show, and I'll put them in the shop. So they are coming, they are on the way, just a little longer wait. So yeah, again, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have some amazing days with your family and friends, and we'll see each other again tomorrow with a delicious cup of coffee.